Out of every single piece of media that I've ever consumed, every book, every movie, under every genre, there is only one that has made me feel anything resembling an absolute and undiluted sense of dread. That has left me feeling genuinely terrified on an existential level. Cyberpunk. In The Lord of the Rings, which this channel is mostly about, hope is always on the horizon. How could it not be, with God himself watching out for his creation? Evil may prevail momentarily, it may wreak havoc, but you know as the reader deep down that the side of good will persevere, that evil will be vanquished. In The Witcher, you do not have these assurances, and quite frankly, you may argue that the opposite is actually what takes place. Darkness and raw humanity fill the setting, unparalleled violence and pain. A very dark setting to be sure, and yet a setting so distant to our modern experiences that it does not make us feel overall uncomfortable. On occasion, perhaps, with some of The Witcher's darkest scenes, but dread is never able to overcome the reader. Dune is very similar, but the existence of all of its fantastical elements, god emperors and futuristic faction rivalries, distance much of the setting emotionally from the shoulders of the reader. All of these three examples are filled to the brim with themes that touch us deeply, all of them incredibly human, relatable and thought-provoking. Hope, violence, hate, evil, oppression, goodness. Despite the oppression that the respective settings describe, however, this feeling rarely finds its way to you, to that familiar knot in your throat, that weight in your chest pushing and pushing, filling you with helplessness. Cyberpunk, on the other hand, and especially its adaptation by CD Projekt Red in the form of Cyberpunk 2077, does, each and every time I interact with it, each and every time for a different reason and aspect of its setting. And so, the question arises, why is Cyberpunk so absolutely terrifying? Cyberpunk on the surface, the first time you look at it from the outside in, is mesmerizing. The neon lights, the sprawling metropolis, with its large pavements, bustling streets, and lively shops. The people with their colorful clothing, their cars, and their retro charm. Any disability or problem people may have can easily be fixed through the advancement of technology. Humanity has, quite literally, reached the very stars and started colonies. Travel is easier and faster than ever. We can live longer, be stronger, and perform deeds unimaginable in our current age. And yet, the world is rotten, down to its very core. Corporations have amassed such power and wealth that they have been able to surpass even the world's most powerful governments. Whereas for us, a government holds the sole right to legal violence and uses it to punish whoever it sees fit or endangers its existence, in the darkness of the future has risen pure, almost open anarchy. Anyone with enough power can exercise their will. Anyone with more power can stop them. Both of them can use any means at their disposal, provided that they can subdue the government of the country they are supposed to operate in. Whereas before, in our times, this may have occurred in the shadows or openly between countries, in Cyberpunk the law of the jungle applies on all levels of society, everywhere. Corporations are faceless, amoral entities whose sole purpose resides in the procurement of profit. These profits have enabled them to produce advanced technologies and other goods, with which they were able to apply force and influence, firstly on their own governments, and later across the globe. They can buy elections, bribe politicians, meddle with investigations, bypass laws, create loopholes in legislation, and most importantly, if need be, they can kill. The democratic process does not matter anymore, nor does any human life. We may still hold elections and punish murder, but never at the expense of the mega corporations which have infested everything and everyone. After all, even if they weren't corrupt, are you really going to punish the company that produces almost every single device you use? The very weapons with which you hold on to power and maintain your comfortable life? Thus, the first piece of the puzzle is how relatable the premise of the setting may be. While the situation described may not be as bad in our world, or even in our future, no one can deny that it is a possibility, that it is something that can occur. a direction that we may be heading in. To add to it, if a corporation controls the government, the country itself, then it also controls the only legal and peaceful means with which a citizen can find justice. In the future of Cyberpunk, a select number of corporations control almost every shop, bank, grocery store, or even device you put into your body. If you want to survive, you need a job. But the problem with working for the ones who control every potential job is that they can do whatever they want to you. You cannot disagree with them. You cannot make demands for better conditions. You cannot ask for a fair wage. You cannot take time off or you'll be replaced. You don't live, you merely survive. A cog in the machine, with no laws and no politicians, no entity there to protect you. You can't rise up either, as the ones you're working for make all of the high-tech guns, or work with the ones who do. So what, you may ask? Your government is corrupt, the world doesn't particularly care about you, and working conditions are bad. Some may even call this our world. What makes Cyberpunk different is that all of these problems are not only very real and relatable, but taken to the absolute extreme. For example, we all know ads, right? They used to pop up every now and again to fund the website you were using. Have you noticed a certain trend perhaps in your own life? In Cyberpunk, we have the result of that trend. Ads are everywhere. They are in every corner of every street, located in every apartment building and elevator, on the side of every building, and even in the night sky, whose stars have vanished. Products are everywhere at all times, one thing to buy after another, meant not for people or individuals, but for consumers. Consumers with no rights, no protections, no benefits, no purpose, other than to consume and serve the needs of the megacorps. That is the tragedy of Cyberpunk, that despite of the world's material comfort and advanced capabilities and of the marvels it has produced, humanity exists only for these things, as opposed to these things for humanity. Regardless of your religion or worldview, it is undeniable that it takes a great effort to suppress your selfish desires for the sake of another. Now imagine a world in which there is no need to make such an effort at all. There is not only no one to stop you, but you are enabled to gain as many advantages as possible in order to come out on top, to the detriment of anyone caught in the crossfire. In the end, Cyberpunk is terrifying because, like the works I mentioned in the beginning, it puts up a mirror for humanity. It shows you human evil, with the only difference being that it shows you the extremity of human evil for your tomorrow. Not some medieval world, not some planet far away. Right here, in your lifetime, tomorrow. You will live in a cruel world, a world where your thoughts, your experiences, your individuality don't ever matter. A world in which you cannot voice your disagreement to the ones who produce everything. A world that will crush your spirit to the breaking point. A place filled with artificial overstimulation to keep you docile, which makes you addicted to comforts you don't need alongside people you don't know. A place filled with such sexual and physical gratification that it borders on the grotesque. Despite this, you remain depressed. You simply exist in constant uncertainty, waiting for something to change, and yet, it never does. You may visit a doll, you may spend all day with a brain dance, but nothing will change. These physical experiences will eventually cease, and yet your soul will remain deprived. To change your fate, perhaps you'll fall into crime. Perhaps a gang will provide you purpose and companionship, and then you'll simply add to the cycle of violence and victimize others, still a cog to the machine. All of these dystopian and devastating societal developments, which may remind us of our own modern societies, are then topped with Cyberpunk's equally terrifying technological advancements. Advancements which, while largely not available now, you can arguably see be developed in the future, which is precisely what makes them so scary. Everyone will have some sort of computing inside them. They'll cut off their own limbs for better artificial ones, our own physical bodies also controlled by the corporation which maintains and manufactures them. In the search for profit and in their hedonism, however, they do not stop at our bodies. With Soulkiller, they go against the very essence of humanity, after our very souls. They can cheat death, and in their pursuit, they can do every evil they want without anyone to stop them. After all, if you already have everything in the world that you could ever conceivably want, why stop at death? Thus, if you add to this setting of absolute totalitarian oppression of your existence and technological over-reliance and material obsession, simple stories that convey the setting's themes on a human level, with characters we know, everything starts to feel all the more real and relatable. Evelyn working as a doll to make do, being attacked, assaulted and sold for parts, and then not being able to keep going anymore, finally snapping. Judy calling the police, telling them what happened, only for the police to tell her to keep Evelyn's body on ice because they were busy. And this is one of the more light-hearted of the game's quests in comparison. In the darkness of our future, in the quest Dirty Biz, our character has to retrieve a brain dance containing the murder of a kid. As the quest progresses, we uncover a father and a son, who seem to be running an entire operation dedicated to taking children, murdering them, and recording their deaths as brain dances for the gratification of those interested. The depravity doesn't stop there, however, and the worst things imaginable that could ever be done to an innocent child, or anyone for that matter, is done as part of this operation, with evidence found in the nearby computer. The absolute depravity of this is so sickening that you can only stare at your screen, not truly seeing what you're looking at, if that makes sense. The reason why this is so impactful is because deep down you know that such atrocities happen in our own world, every single day, to millions. But now, you see that the future doesn't get any better, it doesn't solve anything, despite its so-called advances. It simply finds new ways to perform very old and very evil deeds, and arguably, society has degenerated to such an extent, people are so lost that the evil of today only increases, with no one able to help. In short, Cyberpunk presents us to the problems of our own world, amplified but without any hope. And that, right there, is why it's so terrifying. A massive thank you to my channel members, and thank you very much for watching.